Okay, well, I'm a social psychologist, and my real research interests over many years have been to look at the way that ethnocultural minority groups, individuals and groups, manage and negotiate their way into our mainstream society. I've done a lot of research with First Nations people and how they balance their own indigenous identity and within the larger mainstream European descent society. And then I've done the same. So I teach a course on stereotyping, prejudice, and discrimination. And in that course, we look at a lot at the experiences of various marginalized groups. So ethnocultural for sure, but also we look at groups that are marginalized because of sexual orientation. We look at gender, disability. I think that's wonderful. I think that's laudable. Windsorites have always been generous. I think in part because Windsor historically is a lunch bucket town, working class, and so people in Windsor know what it's like not to have enough to live on or to have barely enough to live on. I think, however, that where we may see some tension points is precisely because right now Windsor is part of the Rust Belt. Our economy was founded on the auto industry, and the bottom's fallen out of that industry. We now have at 9.4%. Last time I checked, we have the highest unemployment rate in Canada. And so one of the challenges will be to find jobs for the refugee families that are coming to Windsor. And the other challenge, and the part that really interests me because of my research, my teaching background, is will there be resentment from the people who are already here in Windsor, who are struggling to find work for themselves and their kids? At what point will people start to say, wait a minute, why are we letting these immigrants come here? They're going to be taking jobs away from us. Now, one of the things that I study, that I talk about in my class, are the various kinds of threats that we can feel for people who are different than us. And they fall into two categories. They're realistic threats and symbolic threats. Now, in the case of Syrian refugees, realistic threat, that is the perception that these people are going to take our jobs, it's a reality that I think we really need to anticipate, and the people working with refugee families are going to have to anticipate it. The reality is probably different from the perception. In other words, the kinds of jobs that refugee families are going to be looking for are not necessarily the jobs that would be filled by the people who already live in Windsor. But as a psychologist, I know that the important factor is the perception of reality. The interesting thing for me is that the other kind of threats that play out when ethnocultural minority groups come to a new country are symbolic threats. Symbolic threats are the kinds of threats that, wait a minute, these people are really going to be changing our values. They have different values, and if we let all of them come in, then that's really going to be bad.